What should you do if you find someone following you? Aaron Su just stepped out of the treasure shop. He found someone was following him. He sensed that the hidden pursuer was a master. At this time, he can send someone to secretly monitor the person tracking him. He didn't have to think to know it was the Zhou family. It seems visiting Yunlu Academy by oneself was the right decision. Even though both oneself and Zane Su are skilled, the female relatives at home are a burden. Dealing with the Zhou family house seems to be urgent. In the main residence of the Su family house, Lila Su is busy chasing geese to play with. She sees older brother coming. She happily wants to show Aaron Su how talented she is. But Aaron Su is confused about where this goose came from. Lila Su said in a coquettish tone. Mother asked someone to buy it. She said it's cheaper to raise it at home than to buy it outside. Aaron Su nodded and asked, Are there no geese? Lila Su ran away quickly. The geese are over there. I'll go chase them out. A few seconds later, the sound of children's voices came. Lila Su was crying, with a big goose biting tightly onto her little leg. Aaron Su had no intention of helping her. He turned around and went to the study. Nico Su said, I have already made arrangements with older brother. Tomorrow we can send mother and younger sister to the academy. It just so happens that Lila is also ready for enlightenment. Aaron Su chuckled. Lila Su must be so happy that she could cry when she hears this good news. Aaron Su stopped laughing and put away his smile, speaking in a serious tone. I have something to tell you. I was followed when I just came back. What about you, Nico? Nico Su sighed. Even if I was followed, how would I know? Zane Su said in a deep voice. Aaron, you will stay at the mansion tonight. We are closer to each other this way. It's easier to take care of each other. Additionally, I will go out later. I'll stop by the Imperial Blade Guard to inform them. They should increase the patrol intensity in the vicinity at night. Dinner time. Aaron Su coughed to attract the attention of the family. Just as he was about to have an outburst, Aaron Su took out a box. The box contained jewelry that Aaron Su had bought with a discount during the day. Ant smiled and reached out to take it, but Aaron Su turned and handed it to his sister instead. Zane Su saw that things were not going well, and quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Calm down. Don't stoop to his level. Aaron, you have the silver allowance for household expenses. Is it worth buying these flashy but impractical things? Lily Su said lightly. We have more than enough food and clothing at home. Dad, even the rice you're eating has older brother's salary in it. Zane Su was left speechless by his daughter's sharp words. So he changed the subject again. Aaron, where did you get the silver from? Aaron said, I thought my sister's jewelry on her head looked too cheap, so I kept it in mind. I saved some silver by cutting back on expenses. In addition, the treasure shop has a half-price game of guessing riddles. Lily immediately grasped the point. Remember it. It seems that only older brother in this family cherishes himself the most. Anne said lightly, After Chinese New Year, Aaron will turn 20, right? It's time for Master to arrange a marriage for Aaron. Then she looked at Jade Maiden and said, I think she is a good match. She has been raised in the family since childhood and has grown up with Aaron. The charming Jade Maiden blushed slightly and seemed a bit at a loss. Lily Su was a little unhappy. Mother, please don't make decisions without authorization. Let older brother discuss his marriage with father himself. The implication is, Mother, don't you know your position in older brother's heart? Anne scolded her daughter, saying, Aaron and Jade Maiden are both talented and knowledgeable. Who are you as a younger sister to oppose? Aaron Su thought to himself, It's not at that stage yet. Nico Su said, Mother thinks that Jade Maiden will marry older brother. We have both avoided the bride price and found a reason to make older brother move out to live. Aunt was targeted. She was momentarily speechless. Then she angrily said, You, this child, have never known how to talk since you were little. Zane Su, that's enough. You don't need to worry about this matter. Eren won't touch women until he steps into the chi forging level. Jade Maiden looks disappointed. Eren Su really managed to upset Aunt today. She thought that Eren Su, that kid, finally became smarter, knowing how to be filial. In the end, he still ended up infuriating Aunt herself. After finishing the meal, he returned to the room. Aunt was still fuming. Your kid has no conscience at all. He only knows how to provoke me. When I took him from you back then, he was as small as a kitten. Who raised him to be this way? She was muttering to herself. Suddenly, she saw her husband take out a wooden box from his pocket and handed it over. On the surface of the wooden box were carved the words, "Treasure Shop." Zainsu said helplessly, Eren asked me to give this to you. Neither of you are willing to back down and admit defeat. He was also too embarrassed to give it to you. That's why he didn't take it out from the table just now. She held the jewelry in her hand and let out a soft hum. She said, Eren still has a little conscience. Zainsu stood by the window on the other side of the room, gazing solemnly at the quiet courtyard outside. Beside him was the standard long sword of the Imperial Blade Guard. The night passed without incident. Zainsu and Eren Su, who had been awake all night, felt relieved. Woke up early. Lily Su was still dressed in her nightgown. She pushed open the window, stretching her lovely figure in the cool air of the morning. At this moment, the maid behind her asked, Lady, what are you looking at outside the window? Lily Su immediately became unhappy. 2 hours later. All members of the Su family have arrived at the foot of Blue Cloud Mountain. Zainsu frowned. Are we too worried? It has been calm from last night until now. Nico, who is good at military strategy, said slowly. If the people who tracked older brother yesterday are from the Zhou family house, then they have missed 2 of the best opportunities to strike. But in the eyes of Assistant Minister Zhou, we may just be ants that can be crushed at any time. There is no rush to deal with us. He has bigger troubles to deal with. Eren Su said in a deep voice. But there is one thing that we must face. If Assistant Minister Zhou is not eliminated, we are doomed for sure. The people of the Su family stopped talking, and all went up the mountain together. Eren Su asked while carrying Lila Su on his back. Do you know what place is ahead? Lila Su shook her head. Eren Su pointed ahead and said, That is Nico's academy where we are going to send you to study. You won't be allowed to come back home in the future. Lila Su suddenly felt dizzy and disoriented. The next moment, she started crying. Not long after, Milesley came out to greet everyone. Nico Su made a bow and said, Have the junior met teacher Simon Zhang? Milesley absent-mindedly replied, He's in seclusion. But his eyes had always been on Eren Su. In his mind, he couldn't help but think of the words on the monument. However, he quickly hid that train of thought and said, I have arranged for the courtyard. Nico Su thanked with a bow. My sister is currently in the enlightenment stage. Teacher, may I allow her to study at the academy for a period of time? Although Lila Su had something to say, she was firmly suppressed by Eren Su. She really has a lot to say, but can't express it. Lila Su is 5 years old this year. In this day and age, scholars do not reject giving enlightenment to young children, and some even advocate for it. Just like that, 2 days passed. Eren Su spoke up. Let's summarize all the information we have collected individually over the past 2 days. We need to come up with a plan to deal with the Zhou family house. The intelligence on Zainsu is as follows. Leon Zhou has been behaving well these days. He has probably been warned by Assistant Minister Zhou. There have been no illegal or unruly actions. Engaging in revelry with a group of government officers all day long. Frequenting places such as gambling dens, dining restaurants, and the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. In addition, I found that Leon Zhou frequently visits a certain house. The house has no signboard. It should be a private residence he purchased outside. Inside the private residence, there is a maid, an old lady, a gatekeeper, and a woman. That woman is most likely someone he is keeping outside. Nico Su and Eren Su listened in silence. Their expressions of contemplation were different. Both the nephew and the son tacitly ignored him. Nikosu said, "Although the students of our academy are not on the same level as the students of the Imperial Academy, but individuals can still become friends. However, the graduates of the Imperial examination from the same year occasionally gather together. Leon Zhou has a bold and overbearing personality. He has conflicts with many classmates from the Imperial Academy. But he is definitely not a stupid person. People who have conflicts with him all have very ordinary backgrounds." Aaron Su is not surprised by this. Analysis can be made from Leon Zhou's methods of dealing with him. Although his methods are not clever, they are effective. He has a certain level of scheming and cunning. This undoubtedly increases the difficulty of dealing with him. Nikosu continues to speak. Leon Zhou has long been infatuated with Miss Freya from the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. Whenever he goes to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau, he always seeks out Miss Freya. But he often fails to be chosen at the tea gathering. Aaron Su's spirits lifted. Miss Freya? That courtesan from the Imperial Entertainment Bureau? Law Enforcer Wong said that if he could sleep with her, it would make his life worth it for that one night. Nikosu did not notice the older cousin's unusual response and continued speaking. I originally thought about playing another round, using the contradiction between others and Leon to make them fight. Utilize the conflict between Leon Zhou and the classmate to devise a plan. But those classmates are not influential enough. And Leon Zhou's caution would prevent him from provoking a higher-level government officer. The difficulty is too high, and it is almost impossible to achieve. Leon Zhou has visited the Imperial Entertainment Bureau many times. If we want to extract more information from him, Freya is an excellent breakthrough. When Aaron Su regained consciousness on the courtesan, he found that his younger cousin had fallen into a cognitive error. So he spoke up. We should not have overly complex and intricate plans to deal with Leon Zhou, because the gap between us is too wide. Scholars are most easily misled by their own cleverness. We make things harder for ourselves when we try to outsmart others. Especially for those with high self-esteem and well-versed in military strategy like Nikosu, it is easy to fall into this misconception. Nikosu furrowed his brow, looking a little unconvinced. What insights does older brother have? Aaron Su said lightly. Naturally, the simpler the better. The real crime without a trace is a spontaneous murder. We should also follow this when making plans. First, involve fewer people. Second, keep things simple. If Leon Zhou had a conflict with a government officer, and that government officer's ancestors happened to have connections with Assistant Minister Zhou, Nico, what would you do? Nico fell into contemplation. Okay. Your silence says it all. We can disguise ourselves. If we seize the opportunity, we can directly beat up the government officer. And then we swagger away. Zane Su finally seized the opportunity to interrupt. He slammed the table and exclaimed loudly, Aaron, this idea really resonates with me. Nikosu was puzzled. Is it really that simple? Simple methods do not necessarily mean they are ineffective. Often, they can be more beneficial. The government officer who got beaten would think, who did I offend recently? He could immediately think of Leon Zhou upon reflection. And this is something that Leon Zhou definitely would not admit. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, their conflict has escalated. You hit me, I will retaliate. Nikosu is a smart person. With just a little thought, he understands older brother's meaning. But his pride prevents him from admitting that Aaron Su is better than himself. So he raised his chin and gave a pretty good evaluation. He then asked, Older brother, what intelligence have you collected? I inquired about who Assistant Minister Zhou's political adversaries are. Nikosu and Zane Su both bend down at the same time. Their faces suddenly become serious. Aaron Su murmurs, It's the Department of Household Affairs Secretary. Nikosu's heart shook. Instantly many doubts were resolved. No wonder Department of Household Affairs Assistant Minister Zhou is planning to embezzle tax silver, because he knows he is about to be betrayed by his immediate superior. He urgently needs a large amount of silver to make up for the shortfall. It is precisely because they are both in the Department of Household Affairs that the Department of Household Affairs secretary was able to catch Assistant Minister Zhou in the act of wrongdoing. Zane Su was somewhat incredulous. "Aaron, how did you know about this kind of thing?" Aaron Su said. "Miss Camila from the Observatory Bureau told me. The price I paid was just a candied fruit skewer. There were also some other snacks. She is easily bribed. That's a good thing. The downside is that she doesn't care about affairs of state. The Observatory Bureau also doesn't get involved in affairs of state, so her knowledge is limited. In fact, this is not good for her." Aaron Su looked at Nico Su. "The information we collected is not enough to formulate a detailed plan. What do you want to do next?" Nico Su thought for a moment. "I suggest going to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau to gather information from the courtesan Freya. I'm sure I can't do this. I never go to those kinds of places." Aaron Su also said with a serious expression, "I am sure I cannot go either because I have not yet stepped into the chi forging level." After speaking, the two of them stared at Zane Su at the same time. "What are you looking at me for? Am I the one who will go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau? I can't even recognize the characters." Zane refused to meet. Nico Su shifted the blame to Aaron Su again. "The poem written by older brother is extremely popular at the Imperial Entertainment Bureau." Zane Su vetoed his son's proposal immediately. Frowning, he said, "Your older brother is an honest man who won't even go to a brothel. You asked him to go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau to find out. Don't end up getting stuck in there. He didn't get the job done, but he ended up being occupied by the women in the brothel." Aaron Su, who never goes to watching performances in brothels, nodded to indicate that he is not that kind of person. Zane Su refused to go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau for reasons other than it being a place for literati. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel as you watch the video here. Aaron Su refuses to go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau, apart from never watching performances in the brothel. There is also another reason, which is that he does not want people to know that he goes there. The three of them all tactfully averted their gaze from each other, falling into an awkward and eerie silence. The three of them reached a stalemate in deciding who should go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau to gather information, because they are all afraid of others finding out. This involves a rule of the inner city. The inner city is different from the outer city. The latter does not have a curfew. However, the former, because it's where respectable people live, enforces curfew after dusk to ensure the safety of the nobles. It is common knowledge that the Imperial Entertainment Bureau works at night. This means that going to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau is not just about gathering information. You also have to stay there overnight. This is why Zane Su opposes Aaron Su going to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. Young men with hot blood can't resist the temptation of staying with the young ladies at the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. Therefore, but none of the three men present are willing to go. The first is Nico Su, who claims to be a righteous gentleman. The second is Aaron Su, who claims to never go to brothels. The third person is Zane Su, who claims to prioritize family and loves his wife. All three of them know one thing very clearly. Even though there were reasons for what happened, it doesn't change this fact. In fact, what they are most afraid of is encountering their own relatives while riding a horse, which would be quite embarrassing. Aaron Su coughed. The matter of the Imperial Entertainment Bureau will be put on hold for now. Let's continue to investigate for more information. Moreover, we are not sure if there will be any good news from Freya, the courtesan. Let's regroup the day after tomorrow. If there are no additional gains, we will consider going again. Aaron Su thought, I should just sacrifice myself. Let's go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau tomorrow night. The next day at noon, Aaron Su took leave and returned to the Su family house. In this era, only those with status and position can live in the inner city. It is worth mentioning that Anne has always wanted to sell her property in the outer city and move to the inner city. Unfortunately, all the money was spent by Aaron, which makes Ant long for the inner city, but unable to live there. Before long, Aaron Sue arrived at a market. He looked up at the archway above Street Y. Street Y is one of the main roads in Capital City. The wide layout of the main roads has its significance. When the emperor or important figures travel, the royal guard will clear the way in advance. Even if there are assassins wanting to hide in the buildings on both sides and shoot arrows in secret, they can only leave helplessly upon seeing the situation from this distance. When Aaron Sue was strolling around, suddenly a luxurious carriage caught his attention. Aaron Sue felt sad and thought to himself that he probably couldn't afford even a single wheel of their carriage, no matter how hard he worked for a lifetime. But then Aaron Sue was attracted by the noisy commotion nearby. Soldiers were playing the pot-tossing game. But obviously, after several rounds, not a single person got it in. An armored soldier walked up to the old Taoist and loudly proclaimed. My master at home said, "Gold 60 taels to buy everything on your stall." Aaron Sue speechless as they didn't hit the pot-tossing game. Did they resolve the issue directly with money? Old Taoist Zhang chuckled with a smile. He said lightly, "Rules are rules." Aaron Sue curiously stepped forward to take a look. Let's not talk about what the old Taoist has displayed. Just the gold and silver ingots placed on the stall have not been stolen. This old Taoist seems to be extraordinary. That armored soldier seemed to have no choice but to leave in dismay. Aaron Sue took the opportunity to step forward and asked, "How much does it cost to play once?" The old Taoist sitting cross-legged on the ground handed over 3 arrows and said, "1 cheen silver." He then turned around with his eyes covered and back facing the target 30 steps away. Aaron Sue took the arrows, calculating in his mind. Tossing a pot 30 steps away would not pose much difficulty for a soldier at the spirit forging level. But it would be nearly impossible for him to hit the target if he had to turn his back and blindfold himself. But he has absolute confidence. Because he hasn't found any silver for several days in a row. Aaron Sue tossed it offhandedly. All 3 arrows hit the target. The passers-by around gave out astonished voices. The commotion caught the attention of the carriage that was just about to leave. A soft and beautiful voice drifted out of the car window. The car stopped. Aaron Sue, with stars in his eyes, pounced on the gold at the old Taoist's stall just as he reached it. The old Taoist ruthlessly swatted his hand away. Then he picked up 2 ornaments and smiled slyly, saying, "Choose one." Aaron Sue refused. The old Taoist then said, "Rules are rules. These 2 items are both rare treasures. How could they compare to ordinary silver? Young master, do not let gold and silver blind your eyes." Aaron Sue thought to himself, "I just want these worldly possessions." However, he still spoke up and asked, "What are the functions of this treasure?" Old Taoist doesn't know. He only knows that they are waiting for a destined person. Aaron Sue thought in his heart, who can say for sure about treasure? Silver is definitely better. Aaron Sue is about to get some good things for free. He was originally still ridiculing old Taoist as a profiteer. A armored soldier behind him stopped him. "This young master, my master at home, is asking for your help." Aaron Sue turned his head to look at the luxurious carriage not far away. "What does your master want?" The armored soldier's gaze fell on the Bodhi bracelet worn by old Taoist. "My master is willing to offer 60 taels of gold." Aaron Sue's face lit up with a warm smile. He said, "Deal." The armored soldier replied, "The master says you can bid multiple times. We will cover the silver if we fail." Just as his words fell, he saw Aaron Sue blindfolded, throwing the arrow effortlessly into the pot with complete accuracy. The armored soldier is a bit confused by the seemingly ordinary young man in front of him. He is dressed like a scholar, but is definitely a master. Aaron Sue takes off his eye mask. He looked towards the luxurious carriage. Just then, a gentle breeze blew by, lifting a corner of the carriage cover. Unfortunately, there was not enough space for Aaron Sue to explore further. At this moment, old Taoist smilingly handed something over. After Aaron Su handed over the Bodhi bracelet to the armored soldier. He also received 60 tael of gold himself. He watched the departing carriage, and wondered what lord was living inside. When he looked back again, he found that the old Taoist was also gone. Aaron Su grunted this sentence, and then stopped caring. He needs to exchange gold for cash first. The exchange rate of gold to silver here is 1 to 8. 60 tael of gold is 480 tael of silver. Aaron Su is a bit distressed. These silver will probably only be enough to buy a small courtyard in the inner city. He wants to buy a large mansion. If he doesn't have 10,000 taels of silver, he shouldn't even think about getting it. But he has more than enough to go to the brothel. Aaron Su lamented why every time he made money, he couldn't help but think about using cash to hit Ant. The grudge of the original owner of this body against Ant is too strong, isn't it? 480 tael. It should be enough to redeem a tea-house courtesan of lower class. It's just that it's not cost-effective this way. I can take turns visiting multiple courtesans for several months with 480 tael. If I were to use all this money on one courtesan, not only would I deplete my family's wealth, I would also have to be responsible for her living expenses. And with my current salary, I can only afford to support one legal wife. Besides, I would never buy the freedom of a woman from a tea house. I might as well go to a brothel and enjoy myself every day. In the twilight, Aaron Su arrived at the famous Imperial Entertainment Bureau in Capital City. Aaron Su heard Wong mention that a normal tea house is typically accompanied by 1 or 2 detached courtyards and a 2 or 3-story building. But the Imperial Entertainment Bureau doesn't require that, because all the courtyards in this area belong to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. This state-owned enterprise is really well-funded. The Imperial Entertainment Bureau has a threshold. The minimum spending is 5 taels of silver, but that is not the price for spending the night with a girl. And that is just the table fee. Therefore, the guests of the Imperial Entertainment Bureau are mainly of 3 types. One is the wealthy and powerful. This type of guest is the most willing to spend money because they, who have a low social status on ordinary days, have a fanatical obsession with the imperial female relatives. Second is the government officer Imperial Entertainment Bureau. For them, it is a place to gather after work for tea parties. As long as they have social engagements, they like to go to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. It is worth mentioning that government officers from the Department of Rights can enjoy free services inside, because the Imperial Entertainment Bureau is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Rights. Scholars are more refined than the wealthy and powerful. They enjoy composing poetry, and are not difficult to serve as officials. Therefore, they are most favored by the ladies of the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. The ladies of the Imperial Entertainment Bureau are also divided into 3 categories. The first type is the female relatives of officials who have fallen from grace. These women are the most pitiful, forced to fall to this level and suffer humiliation. The second type is women who have come from war. The third type is prostitutes recruited by the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. These women voluntarily become workers here. Aaron Su sighed. It's true that you're never too old to learn. Law enforcer Wong is my teacher as well. He stopped outside a courtyard. The plaque on the gate read Shadow Plum Pavilion. A 16 or 17-year-old gatekeeper stood at the entrance, scrutinizing Aaron Su with a curious gaze. Aaron Su was imitating the scholars in Changle County, following the example of scholar Luca Young. I have long heard of the famous name of Miss Freya, and have come to visit. Shadow Plum Pavilion is the residence of the courtesan Freya. There are a total of 12 courtesans in the Imperial Entertainment Bureau, classified as 4th class based on talent, charm, and beauty. Miss Freya belongs to the 1st class, and is renowned for her mastery of both poetry and music. I'm used to the cold and aloof attitude of gatekeepers who deal with wealthy people. They demand 10 tael of silver when you reach out to them. After receiving Aaron Su's silver, he allowed him to enter the courtyard. There were 2 maidservants at the entrance of the inner hall, who noticed the arrival of the guests, and reminded Aaron Sue that the tea gathering had already started. The whole family has gathered together. Since we are family. Aaron came to the Imperial Entertainment Bureau. Will the remaining 2 members of the Sue family also be coming? The place where guests are entertained at Shadow Plum Pavilion is on the first floor. More than 10 guests are sitting in the wine house, drinking and chatting. Aaron Sue's mind flashed with the rules for tea gathering that law enforcer Wong described. Try to make your smile more refined. Bow to everyone. I, Luca Young, a scholar from Changle County, greet you all, gentlemen. Among the people present, there are both wealthy gentlemen in silk robes and students from the Imperial Academy. Their status is neither high nor low. Aaron Sue calmly took a seat. His gaze was always glued to Lady, who was serving as the hostess. Her complexion with a hint of spring-contained colors, as mesmerizing as flowing brocade. Her graceful figure and charming demeanor were naturally captivating. Aaron Sue, who has seen countless women, was also stunned by her beauty. In terms of facial features alone, this courtesan is in the same league as Aunt Lily Sue and Camilla Chu. They each have their own unique charm and characteristics. She belongs to the type of stunning beauty that would definitely turn heads on the street. Miss Freya serves as the host. The host is responsible for leading the drinking game, setting the tone for the atmosphere at the party. This round is all about taking turns to say pairs. The middle-aged man next to Aaron Sue raised his glass and said, "Cheers! 1 sip, 2 sips, 3 sips of the cold wine." As his words fell silent, the courtesan lady applauded and offered a round of compliments and comments to the middle-aged man's couplet. After commenting, she turned to Aaron Sue. Aaron Sue remained calm on the surface, but felt secretly anxious inside. I'm not very good at pairs. It's quite difficult to make the pairs neatly correct. However, he quickly had inspiration. The lilac has hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of blossoms. The eyes of the people present lit up. They immediately complimented with a few words. But Aaron Sue was most concerned about Freya's comments. Freya, the courtesan, smiled and, as usual, gave Aaron Sue a sarcastic evaluation of his couplet. After finishing her evaluation, she immediately averted her eyes from Aaron Sue. Her sitting posture was also somewhat stiff. She only drinks when she is drinking. Aaron Sue drew conclusions from these. This courtesan lady looks down on our level. She has been patiently accompanying us all along. And at this moment, a footstep sounds. Aaron Sue turned his head to look over and found the figure somewhat familiar. Isn't this Sue family Nico? Aaron Sue suddenly stood frozen in place. Nico Sue felt someone was watching him. When he turned around, he suddenly found that it was his older cousin. They both murmured in their hearts, "Didn't expect you to be this kind of person." The middle-aged man beside them watched them with a bewildered expression. Curious, he stepped forward and asked, "Do you know each other?" Nico Sue awkwardly coughed twice and replied, "We are more than just acquaintances." Aaron Sue suppressed his overwhelming shame and embarrassment and calmly smiled, saying, "I have met him a few times. Do you remember me, Luca? We met in Changle County." He deliberately revealed his last name. Remind Nico Sue to use an alias. Nico Sue immediately understood the meaning of cousin. He clasped his hands in front of the middle-aged man and said, "I am Sean Sue from Changle County." Just as his words fell, someone else entered from outside the door. Both of them did not get startled at the same time. Fortunately, it was a false alarm. The newcomer was a rich young man. But following closely behind, Zane Sue also entered. As the saying goes, the whole family goes out together. Zane Sue is crazy venting. Didn't the 2 kids say they didn't have time? Nico is just SOSO. After all, I understand his true feelings. Aaron never goes to brothel. Aaron Sue is the same. Didn't Zane Sue say he was on duty tonight? Every time I quarreled with Aunt in the past, he said that it was a blessing for him to marry such a beautiful wife in this lifetime. He didn't want to scold Aunt, but he still came here. Nico-su is also rich in heart. Isn't older brother never going to the brothel? I said. How come my robe is missing? Shameless scoundrel. Didn't Dad say he deeply loves Mom and never comes here? Aaron-su thinks. The most embarrassing thing in life is when he goes to the brothel and meets Zane-su and his younger brother. The inner drama of the three is far more colorful than their stiff expressions. Aaron-su simply doesn't care anymore. Aaron-su is ready for the scene of copying poetry names to strike again. Continuing with the drinking game. Nico-su's responses are quite average. After all, he is under Scholar Aaron-su's watch. Sometimes he can't keep up and ends up being punished with drinks. Zane-su, on the other hand, has been drinking from start to finish, much to everyone's disdain. According to Nico-su's original intention, the older brother, who excels in poetic talent, should feel right at home in the Imperial Entertain Bureau. Unexpectedly, over the past half-day, drinking games have taken turns in a continuous cycle, but there has been no poetry. In fact, the poetic aspect of the tea gatherings at the Imperial Entertain Bureau has always been lukewarm. There have been few outstanding poems in the past 200 years. Scholars are not adept at composing poems. Naturally, they will avoid areas they are not good at during tea gatherings. The three individuals ended this tea gathering in this awkward atmosphere. If the courtesan lady fancies someone, she will have the maid keep that person and bring them into the house. If there is no interest, the maid will see the guests out. Then, the next round of tea gathering will begin. Everyone is eagerly and anxiously waiting. A maid walked over and said coquettishly, "My lady invites young Master Zao into the house for tea." The three men of the Su family couldn't sit still anymore. Zane-su frowned in anxiety and looked at his son. "Nico, think of a solution quickly." But the two remained stuck in the same place. But suddenly, Aaron-su remembered the title of Freya courtesan. He immediately cleared away the things on the table. He looked at Nico-su and said, "Nico, please ghostwrite for me. I am about to start my performance." Courtesan is inside the boudoir. Freya is bathing. The maidservant nearby says, "Lady Zao, young master is already waiting in the next-door tea room. I heard from the guests outside that he is a scholar at the Imperial Academy." Upon hearing this, Freya calmly said, "What's so special about a scholar? With Zao young master's talent, passing the Imperial examination graduate is just a matter of course. I knew that lady likes this kind of talented young master." She thought of that annoying Leon Zhou, who can only flaunt his power because of his father's official position. That Zao young master is talented. Please treat him well, lady. Maybe it will become a good story in the future. Freya poked Maid's head and sighed. She even made fun of me. It is so difficult for a woman to make a name in history. This is something that many scholars can only dream of but never achieve. At this moment, a maid came in with a crisp voice and said, "The guest Luca outside sent me to deliver a poem." The head maid scolded, "How disrespectful. The lady has already chosen Zao as the young master. How can this be changed? Did you take their money?" This directly touched upon the maid's concerns. She cried softly and dared not talk back. Freya said lightly, "Put it on the table. Go out and tell the guest that Freya understands." After bathing, Freya put on a light and thin gauzy dress. Her graceful figure was elusive. She then said, "Go and invite young Master Zao in." Just as she finished speaking, she was drawn to the papers on the table. As she kept staring, her breathing became slightly heavier. The maid walked to the door. Just as she was about to open it to fetch Zao young master, she suddenly heard a sharp shout from behind. "Wait! Who sent the poem? Which young master sent it? You need to tell me quickly." The maid was startled and said, "It seems to be Luca." "Lady, what's wrong with you?" The courtesan lady tried to rush out of the door recklessly. However, the maid held her tightly. "Lady, how can you go out looking like this?" Freya was so anxious that tears welled up in her eyes. "Please let go of me quickly. Don't let the young master leave. Hurry, go after him." The maid couldn't figure it out. Just a poem. It made the lady lose her composure as never before. All her past knowledge and elegance were completely ignored. Lady, please don't be agitated. I will go immediately to fetch the young master who wrote the poem. After the maid left, the courtesan lady sat at the table in disarray, absent-mindedly staring at the paper in her hand. The poem is written as follows. Amidst the falling flowers, one blooms alone, taking all the charm in this small garden. The shadows slant across the water. The fragrance lingers in the moonlit dusk. Shadow Plum Pavilion Luca dedicates to Freya. Her pretty face was covered in tears the size of beans, unexpectedly bursting into infant-like sobs for a moment. The three of them waited outside for a long time, but didn't see Freya. Zainsu taunted. Everyone has left. This Miss Freya doesn't seem to buy into your story. Su gritted his teeth. This is impossible. There's no reason for Freya to reject him. If this poem were to be given to the two great Confucian scholars of Yunlu Academy, it would be enough for them to treat the author like their own son. At that moment, the small maidservant hurried over and looked at Su, asking, Did you write this poem? The three of them were pleased. Su quickly responded, Yes, it is. The maidservant quickly ushered Su in. However, some of the guests around were a bit displeased.